Hello and welcome to the Sleepy Survival Stories channel. Maybe tonight your thoughts feel like they're still climbing. All day they have been scrambling over plans and memories, clinging to ledges of what if and what next, searching for a safe place to stop. Now the sky outside is darker, the world a little quieter, and you're finally allowed to loosen your grip. You do not have to hold everything up anymore. Feel the bed beneath you, steady and patient, like a broad snow terrace carved into the side of a great mountain. Your pillow supports your head the way a careful guide steadies a tired climber. Let your shoulders sink a little deeper. Let your hands soften. Notice the simple kindness of stillness. Take a slow breath in and a longer breath out, as if you're breathing in the cold, clear air of a Himalayan dawn and exhaling every heavy thought into the thin blue sky. With each inhale, feel a quiet strength entering you. With each exhale, let something go. The noise, the pressure, the tightness across your chest. There is no summit you must reach tonight. Only this moment and this breath. Tonight, we journey into the life of a man who moved across ice and rock with a speed that seemed almost unreal. To many he was a legend, a miracle of endurance, a bright flame against the white face of impossible walls. To others, he became a symbol of conflict, of misunderstanding, of how quickly admiration can turn into accusation. But here, in this gentle darkness, we are not here to judge him. We're here to see the human heart inside the headlines, the quiet child who once looked up at distant peaks and heard them call his name. Imagine a tiny tent of warm light high above the valleys, its fabric trembling softly in the wind, a lantern glowing inside like a small golden sunrise. Snow stretches in every direction, silver under the stars. Outside the air bites and the ice creaks. Inside there is breath and warmth and a simple stove humming like a quiet prayer. Tonight, your room is that tent. Your blankets are that safe cocoon against the storm. As the story unfolds, we will walk slowly through years and ridges, through triumphs and doubts, always returning to this calm rhythm of breath. You may picture footsteps in fresh snow that the wind will soon erase, reminding us that even the loudest fame fades, but the courage and longing behind it remain like soft echoes in the mountains. If sleep begins to come as we travel, let it. You do not need to hold on to the story. Let the words drift across your mind like clouds crossing a high, silent sky. They will keep watch while you rest. You're not here to perform or to prove anything. Tonight, you're here to rest, to breathe, and to be held in a story larger than yourself. Chapter 1. Before the headlines and the names, before the nicknames and the records, there was simply a boy and a line of mountains on the horizon. In a quiet Swiss valley, houses rested beside green fields, and above them the white peaks rose like silent guardians of the sky. In one of those houses, a boy named Ueli listened without knowing he was listening. The clang of his father's metalwork, the soft movements of his mother in the kitchen, the distant hush of wind over high snow. Everything was ordinary, and yet everything was slowly shaping him. As you breathe in now, imagine that valley air, cool and clear, entering your own chest. Chapter 2. His father came home each day with darkened hands and tired shoulders, a copper smith who bent metal into useful shapes. His mother kept the small world of their house warm and ordered, a quiet hearth against the Swiss winters. They were working people, not seeking fame, just hoping their children would grow strong and kind. Nothing in their simple days announced what would come. Yet outside their windows the mountains waited, patient and eternal, their flanks holding snowfields and secrets. Ueli would look up at them the way a child looks up at night sky, sensing something vast and wordless. The peaks were like unwritten prayers, and his life would be their answer. Chapter 3. As a child, he played hockey on frozen fields, skates whispering over ice. On weekends, he followed his father into the hills, learning how snow feels underfoot, how weather changes the light, how silence can be both empty and full at once. These were not yet great expeditions, just small journeys of a boy and his dad, yet each step taught him to move through cold landscapes with ease. There is a tenderness in these early days, a softness before the sharp ridges of fame and expectation. As you breathe out, you might imagine those footsteps in the snow, slow and steady, each one a little lighter than the thoughts you release. Chapter 4. At 12, when many children are still learning the edges of their own neighbourhoods, Ueli joined the Swiss Alpine Club, a kind of mountain school for young hearts. It was like entering a new language, the language of rock and rope, of snowfields and ridgelines. While some kids went for the fun of campfires and games, something deeper stirred in him. The cliffs themselves seemed to speak. Then came Fritz, a local guide with old-school ways, who saw the quiet fire in this boy. He did not wrap him in caution. He placed him on the sharp end of the rope and said in his own way, "Trust your hands, your feet, your focus." Chapter 5. Fritz did not believe in wrapping the world in soft padding. He believed in trust and presence. He would clip a few pieces of metal into the rock, hand young Ueli the lead, and say almost casually, "Climb, just don't fall." It sounded simple, but it was a sacred invitation to attention. Up there, 20 meters above the ground, with little protection, every movement mattered. The rock became a teacher, unforgiving but honest. His hands learned to feel tiny edges. His feet learned to whisper onto holds. High above the valley, the noise of life faded, and there was only breath, heartbeat, stone. As you inhale now, feel that same sharp, clear focus settling gently into calm. Chapter 6. By 17, when many teenagers are still discovering who they want to be, Ueli's path was already etching itself into the stone of the cliffs. He reached the 9th difficulty rating in climbing, a level many never touch in an entire lifetime. The Swiss junior national climbing team welcomed him into their ranks, and competitions followed. Bright lights, chalked hands, cheering crowds. Yet, under the noise, he felt a quiet distance. Plastic holds and measured routes could not match the wild call of real rock, real ice, real weather. His heart longed for clouds snagging on ridgelines, for snow crystals turning in pale light, for challenges that smelled of earth and sky instead of chalk and rubber. Chapter 7. Around him, friends followed more ordinary trails, university lectures, apprenticeships, clear careers. Ueli began a carpentry apprenticeship, shaping wood as his father shaped copper, but the mountains were whispering too loudly to ignore. He would study route maps like sacred texts, tracing lines across the Alps with a finger, imagining the feel of each pitch, the strain, the flow. At some quiet point he chose, not the safe warmth of predictable days, but the uncertain, icy freedom of a climber's life. To others, it may have looked reckless. To him, it felt like obedience to an inner calling. As you breathe out, you might feel your own quiet longings, the ones that ask not for noise, but for truth. Chapter 8. His training became a kind of prayer. While most slept, he rose before dawn and ran straight up the mountainsides, his footsteps carving invisible lines through the dark. Not jogging, but ascending, thousands of feet of vertical gain in cold air, day after day, year after year. Snowflakes on his face, wind catching his breath, heart pounding like a steady drum. He lived simply in a small apartment near Interlaken, spending what he had on gear and journeys, not on comfort. There was a monk-like humility in his routine. Eat little, want little, climb deeply. In that discipline, the world narrowed to three simple things: the mountain before him, the body he carried, and the spirit that refused to stop. Chapter 9. The results of this quiet devotion began to shine. In 2004, with a partner, he stitched 3 great alpine peaks together in a single push: the Eiger, the Mönch, and the Jungfrau, in just 25 hours. It was as if he had turned a chain of icy cathedrals into one long, flowing hymn. The climbing world started to murmur his name with a kind of awe. Yet the true turning point would come on a winter day in 2008, when he stood at the base of the Eiger's north face, the murder wall, and chose to treat it not as a siege, but as a swift, focused prayer. Take a slow, gentle breath and imagine moving lightly through your own walls, step by step, in peace. Chapter 10. On a February morning in 2008, the Eiger's north face rose above him like a vast frozen scroll. For generations, climbers had come to this wall expecting days of struggle, storms, and slow, heavy progress. Ueli stepped toward it with something different in his heart. Not arrogance, but a quiet trust in the thousands of breaths and steps that had led him here. He moved upward almost like water finding its path, swift yet attentive, alone with ice, rock, and sky. In less than 3 hours, he stood on the summit, the world far below. As you breathe in, imagine that sense of clear, simple completion settling softly over your own day. As you listen, you might feel how his journey so far has been like a long, patient inhale. A boy in a quiet valley, a teenager learning to trust tiny holds, a young man running up dark slopes before dawn, each moment a small breath of dedication. Now, as you lie in your bed, you do not need to sprint or prove anything. You can let his effort become your rest. Feel your own life's climbs, large and small, gather gently in your chest, and as you exhale, let the pressure around them soften. Imagine that each of your attempts, each of your stumbles, is seen with kindness by a presence larger than the mountains, larger than your worries. You're allowed to pause on this ledge of night, to look back at all you've already crossed and simply whisper, "It is enough for now." Let your breathing slow, like a careful climber placing each step, and let the silence around you become a safe, white field of snow. Chapter 11. News of his speed on the Eiger moved through the climbing world like a quiet shock. People watched the time, 2 hours, 47 minutes, and struggled to fit it into their idea of what was possible. They began to call him the Swiss Machine, a name that made him sound more like a precise instrument than a fragile, feeling human being. Yet his life remained simple. Early mornings, long runs, careful preparation, a modest home filled more with gear than with luxury. Fame gathered around him like drifting snow, but inside he was still that boy listening to the mountains. As you breathe out, you might feel your own labels and expectations loosening, revealing a softer self beneath. Chapter 12. After many seasons in the Alps, his gaze turned again and again toward the far horizon, where the Himalayas rose like another world. Among them, Everest shone brightest, not just as a height on a map, but as a symbol, a meeting place of dream and danger, of crowds and solitude. He felt the pull of its ridges and faces, yet he did not want only the common path with fixed lines and busy camps. In his heart he imagined quieter routes, elegant traverses, a way of moving that honoured both the mountain and the craft he had spent his life refining. The highest peak was calling, not with noise, but with a deep, steady whisper, like the wind speaking through miles of snow. Chapter 13. When he finally came to Everest, it was not as a tourist walking in a line of bright jackets, but as an artist coming to a vast, dangerous canvas. With trusted partners beside him, he dreamed not only of standing on the top, but of tracing a daring line across the very spine of the world, Everest and Lhotse in one breath, without bottled oxygen, in the purest style he knew. Around him, base camp hummed with generators, tents, and many expeditions, a small city of bright colours and different languages. Yet inside his own tent, by the light of a small lamp, he studied weather maps and routes in silence, listening for the mountain's quiet permission. Chapter 14. On the high slopes above, Sherpa teams were working with their own form of devotion. Long before many climbers left their sleeping bags, these men moved through the icefall and up steep faces, carrying ropes and anchors, building invisible highways of safety for others to follow. They knew the mountain's moods in ways that could not be written in guidebooks. For them, each season was not a personal quest for glory, but a way to feed families, to honour traditions, to serve the strange and fragile dance between local life and global dreams. Two worlds shared the same thin air, each with its own hopes and quiet burdens. Chapter 15. On a clear morning, Ueli and his partners moved onto the Lhotse face to acclimatise, light and fast, weaving their own path. Far above, Sherpas fixed lines for the commercial teams, concentrating deeply as they secured anchors into hard blue ice. A rule had been spoken. No one should climb while the fixing work was being done, for safety, for order. But high places magnify differences in style and culture. What seemed to Ueli like respectful independence felt to others like disregard. Words were exchanged, gestures sharpened, fear and pride rose in the thin air. On that steep, shining wall, misunderstanding began to form like a hidden crack beneath snow. Chapter 16. In the rarefied atmosphere, a single angry word in the Sherpa's own language fell like a stone dropped into a still pool, sending rings of hurt outward. A reflex to protect, a hand reaching out on the ice was seen as an attack. Years of unspoken tension about risk, respect, and the value of Sherpa lives suddenly found a focus. By the time everyone returned to camp, the small spark had become a storm of voices, of fear, of wounded dignity. The mountains, indifferent and immense, watched as human hearts struggled with old wounds and new misunderstandings. As you breathe in now, feel how fragile all of us can be when we are tired and afraid. Chapter 17. For a time, anger filled the thin air at Camp 2. Stones flew, threats were shouted, and the man once admired for his speed and skill now felt the weight of many eyes filled with accusation. Others stepped between, like peacemakers building a fragile bridge in the snow, and slowly the storm calmed. Apologies were offered, some on knees, some in broken words. Yet, even after the voices quieted, something had changed. Stories spread down the mountain, then across the world, faster than any climber could move. The same name that once meant inspiration now carried the heavy dust of controversy. As you exhale, imagine letting go of your own harsh judgments toward yourself and toward others. Chapter 18. Far from the ice, the story of that day on Everest began to grow its own jagged ridges. In articles and interviews, on screens and in conversations, pieces of truth and fragments of rumour slid together like shifting snow. Some saw arrogance, others saw a tragic misunderstanding. For Ueli, it felt as if the mountain he loved had suddenly turned its face away from him. Friends hesitated, sponsors worried, strangers formed opinions from far below. The man who once seemed carved from certainty now felt a deep, quiet crack in his sense of self. As you breathe in, imagine filling that crack in your own heart with gentleness rather than blame. Chapter 19. He tried to explain, to apologize where he could, to honor the Sherpas he'd always respected, to remember the schools and rescues he had helped support. Yet the echo of that season lingered. Even as he returned to the Alps, the questions followed him like a thin, cold wind. Who was he now? Hero? Villain? Something in between? In the stillness of his training runs, the mountains did not answer. They simply rose and rested as they always had. So he returned to what he knew best, moving through steep, silent places, letting each footstep be a kind of prayer for clarity, a way of breathing through shame and confusion. Chapter 20. In the midst of this inner weather, another name kept returning to his thoughts: Annapurna. Years earlier, on its vast south face, an avalanche had swept him down, tumbling him like a small stone in a white river. He had survived, but the mountain remained unfinished, a question left hanging in the sky. Now, after Everest's turmoil, that face called to him again, not as a stage for proving his worth to the world, but as a mirror in which he hoped to see himself clearly. To climb it alone, in pure style, felt like both a risk and a quiet act of devotion. Take a slow, easy breath, and imagine facing your own unfinished places with this kind of patient courage. You may notice as these chapters unfold that your own breath has begun to move more softly, like clouds drifting around a high summit at dusk. The sharp edges of conflict, of reputation and misunderstanding begin to blur at the margins. What remains is something simpler, a human being trying to live faithfully in the light of a difficult calling, sometimes stumbling, sometimes shining. As you rest here, feel how your own life holds similar patterns, moments of praise, moments of confusion, stretches of quiet work that few ever see. You do not have to sort it all out tonight. You do not have to decide exactly who you are in anyone else's story. For now, you are simply a soul on a small ledge of time, wrapped in blankets like a climber in a warm sleeping bag, listening to the wind of memory pass gently by. Let your next inhale be deep and unhurried, and your exhale long and releasing, as if you are sending every tight thought into the open, star-filled sky. Chapter 21. When he returned to Annapurna, it was as if he was walking back into an unfinished conversation. The south face rose before him, vast and severe, 9,000 feet of ice and rock stacked into a single daunting question. He came quietly, without crowds, carrying not just ropes and tools, but the invisible weight of Everest's misunderstandings. In the small spaces of his tent, he laid out gear with the care of a monk arranging candles on an altar. Outside, the air was thin and cold. Inside, he listened to his own heartbeat and the soft hiss of the stove, wondering if this climb might help him remember who he truly was beneath the noise. Chapter 22. The south face of Annapurna is not a gentle place. It leans over the world like a cold, stony wave frozen in the act of breaking. Seracs hang above like fragile glass towers, and the snow beneath them can shift without warning. Ueli chose to go alone, light and swift, trusting the long years of training etched into his muscles and mind. When he stepped onto the face, each movement was deliberate, a small act of trust in his own presence. Night and day blurred into a single continuous effort. The mountain did not cheer him on or curse him. It simply stood, silent as an ancient temple wall. Chapter 23. Hour after hour, he climbed through a world narrowed to tools, footholds, and breath. The air was thin enough to steal thoughts, yet he had to remain clear, choosing each placement as if it were a word in a fragile prayer. Somewhere during that long ascent, his camera slipped and vanished into the abyss below, taking with it the proof others would later seek. Still, he climbed on. At last, after nearly a full day of motion, he stood where few had ever stood, alone on the summit above the south face. There was no crowd, no applause, only wind, sky, and a quiet, exhausted gratitude filling his chest. Chapter 24. When he returned and the news spread, many in the climbing world received it like a small miracle. To solo that face seemed almost beyond imagination, a boundary pushed into new, thin air. Honours followed, including the Piolet d'Or, like garlands laid at his feet. Yet in the shadows of celebration, questions began to whisper. Some asked for more photos, more data, more proof that each step had truly been taken. The same intensity that once inspired unquestioned admiration now invited doubt. For Ueli, it was confusing and painful. How could a single missing camera, a narrow weather window, outweigh a lifetime of honesty? As you breathe out, you might feel his ache and surround it with compassion. Chapter 25. The doubts did not come like a single avalanche, but like small, persistent snowfalls of suspicion. A missing summit photo became a question mark. Imperfect GPS tracks became another. People who had never felt that face under their hands began to imagine what was or wasn't possible up there, far above their own experience. Some defended him, saying that in the world of alpinism a climber's word had long been sacred. Others whispered that his speed, his style, his loneliness on the face were too much to believe. For Ueli, it felt as if the very trust that held the climbing community together was thinning beneath his feet. Chapter 26. In interviews, he tried to answer honestly, patiently, repeating the story of that climb, acknowledging the missing camera, the slim weather window, the difficulty of the route. He spoke of his respect for Annapurna, of the risks, of the quiet joy he had felt upon returning safely. But stories told in warm rooms far from the mountain can never fully carry the taste of thin air or the weight of a single step on fragile ice. While the storm of opinion grew louder, he still rose early, still ran in the dark, still moved among the peaks that did not ask for proof, only presence. Chapter 27. The combination of Everest's misunderstanding and Annapurna's doubt carved deep lines inside him. He was not made of stone, no matter what his nickname suggested. The Swiss machine had a very human heart, one that felt betrayal, loneliness, and the sting of being misseen. Some evenings, after long days in the mountains, he would sit quietly and look at photos from earlier years. Simple climbs, shared smiles, a time before his name carried so much weight. In those moments, the question was not about fame or records, but about identity. Who was he, if the world no longer believed the story he knew to be true? Chapter 28. Yet even beneath the weight of doubt, a steady flame of devotion kept burning. He still loved the feeling of crampons biting into ice, of axes finding solid purchase, of moving quickly through terrain that demanded respect. He still believed in the purity of light, fast climbs, in the simple beauty of doing something as cleanly as possible. When he looked at the Himalayas, he did not see a stage for redemption so much as a beloved, harsh teacher. Everest and Lhotse still called to him, not with the roar of crowds, but with the quiet, unwavering voice they had always used. As you breathe in now, feel that same faithful ember glowing gently within your own chest. Chapter 29. So he began to shape a new vision in the quiet of his thoughts, a traverse that would link Everest and Lhotse without supplemental oxygen, moving along the very spine of the world in one continuous, elegant line. It was the kind of dream that brought together everything he loved: endurance, purity of style, and deep trust in his own preparation. To most, it sounded almost impossible. To him, it felt like the natural unfolding of years spent listening to mountains. He knew the risks. He knew how thin the margin for error would be. Yet in his chest, the idea glowed like a small, steady lantern in a dark, high camp. Chapter 30. Before such a journey, he needed to reacquaint his body with the high, cold air. Active acclimatization, he called it, moving up and down, rising and returning, letting his lungs and blood remember how to live in thin spaces. Base camp at 17,500 feet became his temporary home, a scatter of bright tents on a living river of ice. There, beneath prayer flags fluttering like coloured breaths against the sky, he rested, planned, and watched the shadows move across Nuptse's steep walls. To others, this was a place of ambition and noise. For him, it was also a place of quiet preparation and inner listening. Chapter 31. Nuptse, neighbouring Everest, rose like a lesser-known sibling, steep and intricate, its flanks catching morning light in subtle shades of gold and blue. For Ueli, it offered the perfect ground for a training climb, high, demanding yet separate from the busy routes of the main peak. On the evening before his ascent, he prepared his gear with the same care he had shown since youth, checking crampons, testing gloves, laying out layers like a ritual. Outside, the glacier creaked softly in the cold. Inside his small tent, steam rose from a simple meal, and perhaps, for a moment, he simply closed his eyes and listened to the hush of the night pressing gently against the thin walls. Chapter 32. At 4 a.m, base camp lay under a dome of stars, each one a distant, patient fire in the sky. Ueli slipped from his sleeping bag and into the silent world of frost and stone. His breath rose in small clouds, and his headlamp carved a narrow tunnel of light through the dark. This was a familiar rhythm: early start, simple routine, steady pace. With a partner heading toward the usual route, he turned instead toward Nuptse's face, trusting his sense of the mountain and his own body. In that thin, cold hour, there were no cameras, no headlines, only footsteps on crunchy snow, the quiet clink of metal, and the slow, sacred act of moving upward. Chapter 33. As the first hint of dawn touched the eastern sky, the world around him slowly shifted from black to deep blue. Ice ridges and seracs, invisible in the night, began to take on shape and shadow. Ueli moved steadily upward on Nuptse's face, each step a familiar conversation between crampon and snow, axe and ice. To him, this was not yet the grand performance, merely a rehearsal, a way to remind his body how to breathe in thin air, how to flow across steep ground with ease. From far below, a few early risers at base camp noticed a tiny moving dot on the wall and thought, almost fondly, "There goes the Swiss machine." Chapter 34. From the valley of the Western Siabem, some climbers and Sherpas paused in their own routines to watch his graceful progression. Even at a distance, there was a recognizable efficiency in his rhythm, a smoothness that had come from decades of devotion. The air was calm, the sky clear, the light soft and promising. Witnesses would later remember small details: his speed, his line, perhaps the puzzling glimpse of bare or lightly covered hands where thick gloves might have been expected. But in that moment, no one imagined tragedy. It looked like another training run for a man whose normal was already far beyond what others considered extreme. Chapter 35. Somewhere high on that face, in terrain that for him was well within his abilities, something happened that no one would ever fully understand. Perhaps a crampon caught on a fold of fabric, perhaps a small patch of ice, which seemed firm, sheared away under his weight. Perhaps a tiny lapse in concentration, a heartbeat of distraction in a place where every breath must be prayerfully precise. The mountain did not record the reason. There was no slow unfolding, no warning, only suddenly the absence of balance, the slip of a body leaving its intended path, and a human life entering the long, terrible arc of a fall. Chapter 36. Far below, a team descending from higher camps looked up and saw a shape moving where no one should ever move so fast, tumbling, spinning, falling down Nuptse's wall. Even at a distance, the violence of it was unmistakable. In a place where steps are measured, here was a descent measured in hundreds, then thousands of feet. One of them whispered a prayer, another shouted helplessly into the cold, thin air, words that could not possibly reach. Radios crackled, hearts pounded, but there was no hand long enough to catch him, no rope stretching across that gulf of ice and sky. In that moment, all they could do was watch and hope that mercy might meet him before the ground did. Chapter 37. Later that morning, as the sun climbed higher and the sharp chill softened just a little, another team made its way down through the western Siabuem. They were tired but content, their rotation nearly finished, their minds drifting toward tea and rest at base camp. Then one of them looked toward the glacier below and saw something that did not belong to the quiet pattern of snow and rock, a small figure lying still where no climber should be. Approaching slowly, they recognized clothing, gear, the familiar outline of a man who had once seemed almost untouchable. There on the bright, indifferent ice, the Swiss machine had come to rest, as silent and fragile as any other human being. Chapter 38. News moved through the camps like a sudden wind, whispers at first, then surer voices. A fall on Nuptse, a body found, a name spoken with disbelief. Radios carried the message down to base camp and out into the world beyond the mountains. Just days earlier, Ueli had written of quick acclimatization runs, of joy in moving up to 7,000 meters and back in a single day. His words had sounded light, almost playful. "I love it here," he had said. Now those same slopes had taken him in a single, undefended moment. People scrolled through his last posts, their hearts catching on the brightness that now sounded like a farewell. Chapter 39. For many, the hardest part to understand was that he had not died on the grand traverse he had so carefully planned, but on what he considered a modest training ascent. The project meant to test every fibre of his being still lay ahead, unattempted, like a delicate line traced but never stitched into the sky. Instead, a simple preparation day had become the end of his story on Earth. It was a quiet, devastating reminder that mountains do not follow our sense of proportion. What seems small to us can still carry unimaginable consequence. As you breathe in, You might feel how even in your own life, the ordinary moments are just as sacred as the extraordinary. Chapter 40. When the news reached home, valleys and cities far from the Himalayas felt a subtle emptiness, as if a bright star had fallen from a familiar constellation. Some remembered the records, the sprint up the Eiger, the bold lines on hidden faces. Others thought of the controversies, the questions, the sharp words exchanged on Everest, the doubts around Annapurna. But those who knew him best remembered simpler things. His shy smile, his disciplined kindness, the way he listened when others spoke of their own dreams. In the end, he could not be reduced to hero or villain, saint or fraud. He was a man who loved the mountains fiercely and who gave almost everything to move among them. And now, as you rest here, listening to the soft echo of his journey, let your own breath become slow and tender. Inhale gently, as if drawing in the cool, pure air of a high, sunlit coal. Exhale slowly, as though you're releasing a long, heavy day into the open sky. Feel the weight of your body supported by the bed beneath you, as securely as a climber on a broad, sheltered ledge. You do not have to choose a verdict on his life, or on your own. You do not have to sort every memory into right and wrong, success and failure. For this moment, it is enough simply to honour how fragile and brave it is to be human at all, to rise, to try, to love something deeply, and to rest when the climbing is done. Chapter 41. In the days that followed, tributes began to appear like small candles lit in many different windows. Climbers posted memories of shared routes and quiet campfire conversations. Sherpas spoke of rescues he had helped fund, of schools built for their children. Some who had once criticized him softened their voices, remembering that every story is more tangled than it appears from afar. Photographs resurfaced. Him laughing in a kitchen, tying his shoes in the dark before a climb, staring thoughtfully at a line of rock. Each image reminded the world that behind the headlines there had always been a human face, marked by effort, hope, and the weight of his own choices. Chapter 42. For some, his death reopened old questions. Was his style too bold, his speed too unforgiving, his trust in minimal gear a kind of quiet defiance of caution? Others saw in his life a reflection of their own drive to do something pure, something wholehearted, even if misunderstood. The conversation moved like shifting snow, never finding a fixed shape, always sliding between admiration and concern. Yet the mountains themselves, these silent witnesses to every step he had taken, remained unchanged. They did not declare him right or wrong. They simply held his footprints for a while, then let the wind erase them, as it does with everyone's. Chapter 43. In a way, his life on the peaks was like a series of prayers spoken with the body instead of words. Fast ascents, bold routes, quiet bivouacs under a field of stars. Some prayers were answered with success and sunlight, others with storms and hard lessons, and one with a final fall that no one expected. But even that ending could not erase the devotion that had shaped his days. When people watched old footage of him moving across ice and rock, many felt not just awe, but a strange tenderness. The man they had once called a machine now appeared as he had always been, a fragile, determined soul reaching for something beautiful and hard to name. Chapter 44. Tonight, as you lie here listening, far from the snow and stone of his world, you might feel a quiet kinship with him. You may not climb ridges or race up frozen faces, but you too know what it is to long for something, to give your strength to a dream, to stumble and rise again beneath the gaze of others. In the soft darkness of your room, the drama of judgment can finally fall silent. You're not required to succeed or to justify yourself. You're simply invited to breathe, to rest, and to let this story remind you that every heart is both more fragile and more courageous than it seems. Yours included. Chapter 45. In small living rooms far from the Alps, people watched documentaries and interviews of him with new eyes. They saw not only the records he set, but the way he spoke about fear, about humility, about knowing that a single mistake could end everything. He often said that in the mountains you were never really in control, only in conversation with forces far larger than yourself. Those words, once heard as confident wisdom, now sounded like a quiet confession. As you breathe in, you might feel your own life as a similar conversation, each day a dialogue between your intentions and the mysteries you cannot command. Chapter 46. Parents who had once pointed to his speed ascents as proof of what discipline could accomplish began to tell a softer version of his story to their children. They spoke of courage, yes, but also of limits, of listening to the quiet voice that says, enough. They described how someone can be both incredibly strong and deeply vulnerable at the same time. In their telling, the real miracle was not how fast he climbed, but how fully he gave himself to the thing he loved, knowing the risks could never be reduced to zero. As you exhale, consider how your own love, for people, for callings, also carries both beauty and cost. Chapter 47. In the climbing community, his legacy became like a ridgeline traced against the sky. Sharp in places, gentle in others, impossible to see from only one angle. Some vowed to follow his style, moving lighter and faster, treating the mountains like partners rather than fortresses. Others chose more rope, more protection, more margin. Yet beneath their debates lay a shared reverence for the high, cold places and for the human hearts drawn to them. Whether they admired or questioned him, most could agree on this. He had lived intensely awake to the thin, bright edge between life and death, and that awareness had shaped him. Chapter 48. For you, listening now in the quiet of your own room, his story can become something different, a gentle mirror rather than a sharp verdict. You may feel the weight of your own expectations, the times you believed you had to be a machine instead of a human being with limits and needs. You may remember moments when you fell, not from a wall of ice, but from a plan, a hope, an image of yourself. In this soft darkness, you're invited to lay those falls down like gear at the end of a long climb. Let your breath move slowly in and out, and know that being human, not perfect, is enough for tonight. Chapter 49. Some nights, those who had climbed with him would lie awake and remember small, quiet details. The way he double-checked a knot without comment, how he noticed a teammate's fatigue and silently took a heavier share of the load, how he sometimes fell completely silent on a ridge, as if listening to something only he could hear. These memories did not erase the controversies or the questions, but they filled in the empty spaces between them. They reminded people that no single moment, no argument, no achievement, no mistake could contain the fullness of a person's story. As you inhale, let that thought soften how you hold your own past. Chapter 50. In time, his life began to feel less like a simple line and more like a constellation. Bright points of courage, hard lessons, misunderstandings, devotion, and fallible humanity, all shining together against the dark. Some stars in that constellation were painful to look at. Others brought a quiet warmth. Yet when seen from a distance, they formed a pattern that could not be reduced to hero or failure. It was simply the shape of a human soul reaching upward, again and again, toward the thin, shimmering edge of what it loved most. As you exhale, imagine your own life as such a constellation, complicated, imperfect, and still quietly beautiful. Tonight, as we rest for a while at the center of this story, let your breathing become even slower, like a gentle breeze passing over a high, silent pass. You have walked with Ueli from childhood valleys to alpine walls, from Everest's confusion to Annapurna's lonely summit, from Nuptse's sudden fall to the quiet shifting of his legacy. There has been light and shadow, praise and doubt, triumph and grief. Let all of it now drift to the far edges of your awareness, as if you are watching distant ridges fade into evening mist. You do not need to carry his whole story in your mind. You do not need to solve who he truly was. Instead, allow this midpoint to become a resting place for you. Feel the mattress beneath you as solid rock, the blankets as warm down, your room as a small, safe tent lit by a single golden lamp. Outside, the winds of opinion, memory and regret can blow as they wish. Inside, there is only breath, and a steady, watchful presence that is not asking you to perform. If you like, place one hand lightly over your chest and notice the quiet rhythm there, a simple, faithful beating that has carried you through every season of your life, through your own misunderstandings, your own unfinished climbs, your own hidden falls. Let gratitude rise like a small, clear flame for the paths you have walked, for the people who have held your rope, for the chances you still have to love and to rest. You do not have to conquer any summits tonight. You do not have to defend your choices or prove your worth. Here, in this gentle pause at the heart of the story, you are allowed simply to exist, to be human and tired and tender. Let your next inhale be deep and unhurried, and your exhale long and releasing, as if you are laying down an invisible pack you've carried all day. Whatever climbs await you tomorrow. For now, you're safe on this quiet ledge of night. Chapter 51. From this quiet center, imagine the mountains at night, stretching in every direction like a dark, sleeping sea. Somewhere among them lie the routes he traced, the bivouacs where he watched stars turn slowly above sharp ridges, the steep faces where his breath mingled with freezing wind. Those places still exist, but they no longer carry his footprints. Snow has fallen, ice has shifted, and yet the devotion he poured into those slopes has not vanished. It lingers like a faint warmth in the stories people tell, in the courage others feel when they stand where he once stood. As you breathe in, let that thought comfort you. Nothing given in love is ever entirely lost. Chapter 52. Think of the Sherpas again. The quiet, strong figures moving through the icefall long before dawn, fixing lines, carrying loads, whispering prayers into the thin air. Some of them walked beside him, some clashed with him, some later forgave, some perhaps still hold pain. Their lives too are woven into this tapestry. Seasons on the mountain, children at home, memories of storms survived and friends not returned. High above any argument, there remains a simple, shared truth. Everyone up there is risking something precious. Tonight, as you exhale, you might silently bless all those unseen helpers in your own life, the ones who have carried weight for you, even when you did not fully understand their cost. Chapter 53. In a sense, the mountain itself became a teacher for everyone watching his story unfold. It reminded us that speed and skill, though dazzling, are not a shield against mortality. It showed us that even our greatest strengths can carry shadows, ambition that brushes close to obsession, courage that sometimes forgets to rest. Yet the same story also reveals how deeply a human heart can commit to one calling, returning again and again to the high, cold places, not out of vanity, but out of a longing to touch something pure. As you breathe in, let that longing remind you of your own desire to live honestly, even in small everyday ways. Chapter 54. Perhaps the gentlest way to remember him is not as a flawless hero or tragic caution, but as a fellow traveller on a steep, mysterious path. Like you, he knew what it was to wake before dawn, to feel both hope and fear, to question himself after mistakes, to yearn for understanding. The mountains were his mirror. Your mirror might be work, family, art, or quiet acts of kindness that few ever see. Whatever form it takes, your devotion is no less sacred. As you exhale now, imagine setting down the need to compare your path with anyone else's, and simply honouring the ground beneath your own feet. Chapter 55. If you listen closely, beneath the noise of debate and the sharp edges of opinion, his story hums with a softer message, that it is all right to be both strong and breakable, both determined and uncertain, both admired and misunderstood. The peaks he climbed rise and fall like a heartbeat against the sky, and your own life has its ridges and valleys too. You do not have to walk them with machine-like precision. You're allowed to move slowly, to pause, to ask for help, to change your route. Let your next breath arrive like a small, kind light in your chest, and let it remind you that simply being here, breathing, is already enough. Chapter 56. When people speak of him now, some focus on the numbers, vertical meters, hours en route, grades and difficulties. Yet, if you listen more carefully, another kind of story emerges between the statistics. It is the story of a man who woke up early when no one was watching, who laced his shoes in the dark, who ran through snow and rain and doubt. It is the story of quiet choices, to keep training, to keep learning, to keep returning to the places that frightened and inspired him in equal measure. As you breathe in, remember that your own unseen efforts are also worthy, even if no one turns them into headlines. Chapter 57. In the hush of his discipline, there was always a trace of play, a childlike joy in moving over stone and ice. You can see it in certain photos, the slight lift at the corner of his mouth, the relaxed way he stands on a summit, as if greeting an old friend rather than conquering a prize. That lightness did not cancel the risks he took, but it did reveal something tender beneath the toughness. He was not just chasing records. He was dancing in his own way with the high, cold world. As you exhale, you might remember moments when you too have felt quietly alive doing something you love. Chapter 58. Over time, his image became heavy with other people's meanings. Sponsors' expectations, media narratives, the hopes and fears of fellow climbers. That weight is difficult for any one person to bear. Perhaps you know a gentler version of that feeling, being seen only as a role, a title, a function, while your deeper self waits patiently underneath. His story reminds us that no one can live forever as a symbol. We're all, in the end, simply hearts that beat, bodies that tire, souls that long for understanding. As you breathe in, allow your own deeper self to feel seen, even if only here, in this quiet moment. Chapter 59. If he could speak into this night, perhaps he would not ask us to copy his routes or argue over his choices. Perhaps he would simply invite us to take our own lives seriously, not in the sense of grim pressure, but of reverence, to treat our days as he treated his climbs, with focus, humility, and an awareness that each step is precious because it might be our last. You do not need a mountain to do this. You only need the willingness to be present where you are, with the people and tasks before you, breathing gently in and out like a slow, faithful tide. Chapter 60. In this way, his story becomes less about altitude and more about attitude, the posture of a soul before something vast. For him, that vastness was carved in snow and granite. For you, it might be the mystery of love, the challenge of healing, the quiet courage of showing up day after day. Whatever your terrain, you're no less a climber, ascending through doubts, storms of emotion, stretches of clear, bright peace. As you exhale, imagine yourself standing on a small inner summit, not triumphant, but grateful simply to have made it this far. You have now walked with him through many ridges of memory, and yet the night around you remains calm and still. Let that stillness seep into your muscles, your forehead, your jaw. Feel how the bed holds you the way a safe ledge holds a weary alpinist. You are allowed to rest here without proving anything, without answering every question his story raises. Let your breath be your only task, in and out, like a slow lantern glow in a quiet tent. Whatever debates continue in the world below, up here, in this small sanctuary of darkness and warmth, there is only this simple, healing rhythm. Chapter 61. Somewhere, a young person might be watching an old video of him climbing, eyes wide, heart beating a little faster. They might never touch a glacier or rope, yet feel something rise inside when they see him move so freely on a wall of ice. It is not the height itself that calls to them, but the idea that a human being can lean so fully into what they love. You may feel a trace of that too as you listen, an echo of your own buried courage. As you breathe in, allow that quiet bravery to stretch gently inside you, like a limb awakening after a long, safe sleep. Chapter 62. Others, who have known loss, might hear his story and feel a different ache. The sharp awareness of how quickly everything can change. A single step, a single decision, and a whole future shifts into silence. Yet even within that awareness, there can be a strange, tender gratitude that we get any days at all, any chances to tell the people we love that we love them, any mornings to rise and try again. As you exhale, you might let a soft thank you form in your chest for the ordinary moments of your own life, the ones that seem small until they are gone. Chapter 63. The mountains he climbed will outlive every memory of him. Storms will carve new patterns into their faces. Glaciers will retreat and reform. Generations of climbers will come and go. His name may fade as all names do, but the spirit that drove him, that mixture of awe, curiosity, and devotion, will appear again in others. It appears in gentler forms in you as well, in the way you care, in the way you endure, in the way you keep reaching for light even on heavy days. As you breathe in, let yourself feel connected to that long, quiet river of human endurance. Chapter 64. If you could walk alone for a moment along a snowy ridge at dawn, with no one watching, no cameras, no expectations, what would you whisper into the cold air? Perhaps not numbers or achievements, but simple hopes. To be kind, to be forgiven, to be understood, to find rest. Beneath all the layers of ambition, these are often the truest prayers of the heart. His story, with all its peaks and fractures, pulls those prayers into view. As you exhale, imagine sending your own unspoken wishes into the vast, listening sky, trusting that you do not need perfect words for them to be heard. Chapter 65. Tonight, lying here in the gentle dark, You are standing in a place his boots never touched, yet the lesson of his life still reaches you. It says you are allowed to love something deeply, and you are allowed to be imperfect while you do. You are allowed to strive, and you are allowed to rest. You are allowed to change your route, and you are allowed to come down when the weather inside you turns. Let your next breath be soft and forgiving, as if you are wrapping a warm blanket not just around your body, but around every version of yourself that has ever tried and fallen and tried again. Chapter 66. In some ways, his passion for the mountains was simply an intensified version of something that lives quietly in many hearts. The desire to touch what feels pure and larger than oneself. You may not lace crampons or swing ice tools, but perhaps you know what it is to stand before a task, a relationship, a calling that feels vast, and to whisper, "Let me be faithful here." His climbs were his answer to that whisper. Yours might be a gentle word, a difficult forgiveness, patient act of care. As you breathe in, feel how sacred those small ascents are, even if no one ever writes their stories down. Chapter 67. There is a tenderness in remembering that even at his strongest, he was never invincible. He worried, he misjudged, he needed others, he longed for understanding. The myth of the Swiss machine dissolves under the warmth of this truth, revealing someone much closer to you than a distant superhuman figure. In the same way, the parts of yourself you expect to be machine-like, always productive, always brave, always composed, are gently invited tonight to rest. As you exhale, let the idea of perfection drift away like spindrift blown off a ridge, leaving only the solid, honest rock of who you really are. Chapter 68. Perhaps the deepest lesson in his story is not about risk, but about listening. The best climbers learn to hear subtle warnings in wind, in snow, in their own bodies. Sometimes the wisest act is to turn around, to descend while there is still time. In life, the signs are softer: a tired spirit, a frayed patience, a quiet sadness that does not lift. You're allowed to heed those signs. You're allowed to say, "For today, this is high enough," and come back to safety. As you breathe in, ask your own heart if there is any summit it wants to step back from, just for tonight. Chapter 69. For all his speed, some of the most beautiful images of him are the still ones. Sitting in a tent with steam curling from a mug, gazing out at a sunrise over a sea of clouds, standing silently on a summit with hands resting on his axe. In those moments, there is no hurry, just a human being held between earth and sky. You too are held in such a space now, between the day that has passed and the day yet to come, between what you have done and what you still hope to do. As you exhale, let yourself simply exist in that in-between, without rushing to the next climb. Chapter 70. If you imagine him now, not as the world's fastest alpinist, but as a soul finally laid down its pack, perhaps the mountains around him are quiet and kind. No more deadlines, no more debates, no more thin edges to balance upon, only a wide, luminous peace, like fresh snow under starlight. In that imagined peace, the harsh words fall away, the arguments grow silent, and what remains is a simple gratitude that he lived, that he tried, that he loved the heights so deeply. As you breathe in, allow that same peace to approach you, step by gentle step, like dawn moving slowly across a high ridge. You have followed this story for a long stretch now, and your mind may feel pleasantly tired, like legs after a long, steady climb. Let this be a place to pause. Feel the support beneath you, the softness around you, the quiet within you growing wider, like a calm valley opening between mountains. You do not need to replay his falls or his feats. You do not need to decide what you would have done in his boots. Instead, turn gently toward your own life, the summits you have reached, the storms you have passed through, the ledges where you have rested and healed. Let your breathing slow even more. Inhale as if drawing in cool, clear air from a pristine glacier. Exhale as if releasing a small cloud into the evening sky. With every out-breath, let another layer of tension slide away from your face, your neck, your shoulders, your chest, your hands, your legs. Imagine that you have taken off a heavy harness, unclipped from the day's demands, and stepped into a warm, sheltered tent where nothing is required of you but rest. In this tent of night, you are not a machine, not a record, not a role. You're simply a beloved, breathing being worthy of gentleness. The mountains of expectation will still be there tomorrow. For now, you may lie down on this small ledge of time, wrapped in quiet, and let the wind outside sing its soft, distant song while you drift gradually towards sleep. Chapter 71. When people walk past the mountains he loved, most will never know his name. They will see only pale peaks against the sky, feel the crisp air, hear the faint roar of distant rivers. Yet some part of his story moves quietly through those places, the way warmth lingers in stone after the sun goes down. The high slopes remember every careful step, every whispered decision, every breath given to thin air. In the same way, the landscapes of your life hold traces of you, rooms you once laughed in, paths you once walked, moments you once faced with trembling courage. As you breathe in, let yourself feel gently remembered by the world. Chapter 72. There is a grace in knowing that we do not have to stay on the sharpest edges forever. Even he with all his speed had rest days, humble chores, evenings of washing dishes and folding clothes. These simple acts were part of the same life that touched deathly heights. Your own ordinary moments, the cup of tea, the quiet chore, the small kindness, are not separate from your greatest climbs. They are the snowfields between steep pitches, the sheltered ledges that make the ascent possible. As you exhale, allow yourself to honor the soft, unremarkable tasks that have kept you going, even when no one applauded. Chapter 73. Sometimes people spoke of him as if he belonged more to the mountains than to the earth below, but he loved and was loved in ways that had nothing to do with summits, friends, family, shared meals, laughter in small kitchens, handwritten notes. These threads bound him to the world as surely as any rope. The same is true for you. Whatever heights you chase, it is the human connections, the gentle conversations, the hands held in hard times that keep you from drifting too far into the cold. As you breathe in, remember one person who has been a steady anchor for you, and let gratitude warm your chest. Chapter 74. If you look back over his story, you can see how often he began again. After falls, after storms, after misunderstandings. Each new attempt was not a denial of what had gone wrong, but a quiet refusal to let those moments define everything. You too have begun again more times than you realize. Perhaps not on icy faces, but in mornings when you rose after disappointment, in apologies spoken, in new choices made with a softer heart. Those small renewals are as brave as any summit push. As you exhale, let go of the belief that you must be flawless, and honor instead the courage of your restarts. Chapter 75. Now, as the story thins like air near a summit, we do not stand above him in judgment, nor below him in awe. We simply stand beside him for a moment in our imagination. Two pilgrims on different ridges, each carrying a bundle of hopes, fears, and unspoken prayers. The mountains around us glow with the last light of evening. The sky deepens into blue and then into star-strewn black. In that quiet, all the noise falls away, leaving only breath and presence. As you breathe in and out, feel yourself accompanied, not by legends or ghosts, but by the simple truth that every heart that has ever loved, strived, and rested is kin to your own. Chapter 76. Somewhere in a quiet home, far from snow and ice, a candle might be burning on a small table. Beside it lies a book of mountain stories, one of which bears his name. The person reading may never climb, may never tie into a rope, but as they turn the pages they feel a strange calm, the sense that even in a harsh world there are souls who choose devotion over comfort. You too have chosen difficult things at times. Honesty when silence would be easier, kindness when anger tempts. As you breathe in, let yourself see these choices as your own form of climbing, taken step by quiet step. Chapter 77. If we could visit the places he loved in this moment, we might find them unchanged. The Eiger's dark face catching first light, Annapurna's south wall steep and solemn, the silver valley of the western Terdabma lying silent beneath the stars. Snow erases footprints, but not meaning. The traces of his passing survive in the hearts he stirred, the imaginations he opened, the courage he awakened. In the same way, your presence in this world has left marks you cannot see, small acts that change someone's day, gentle words that shifted another's path. As you exhale, trust that your life has mattered more than you know. Chapter 78. In high camps, climbers still tell stories long into the night, some humorous, some humbling, some full of awe. His name comes up in those conversations like a peak on the horizon, sometimes admired, sometimes questioned, sometimes simply nodded toward in respect. The truth is, no one can fully know another's heart, especially in places where fear, altitude, and longing intertwine. But we can let their stories widen our own hearts, teaching us to hold others more gently. As you breathe in, imagine your chest expanding not just with air, but with a growing capacity for mercy toward those you know and those you don't. Chapter 79. Your own life is also a story told partly in light and partly in shadow. There are chapters you share easily, and chapters you keep folded inside like fragile maps. His journey reminds us that even the brightest achievements can coexist with confusion and pain, and that even the hardest mistakes can sit beside moments of real beauty. You do not have to edit your story tonight. You do not have to explain why certain things happened as they did. As you exhale, imagine placing your whole life, every summit, every fall, into a pair of gentle, unseen hands that hold you without judgment. Chapter 80. Now picture the great range of the Himalaya under a clear, star-filled sky. Peaks and ridges stretch away into the dark like waves on a frozen ocean. Somewhere in that vastness, a small tent glows with soft golden light. Inside, someone has finally slipped into deep sleep, face relaxed, breath slow and steady. Outside, the night keeps watch. This is the image I offer you for your own heart. A small, warm sanctuary held in the middle of something immeasurably large. As you breathe in and out, feel that you too are sheltered, cradled in a peace that does not depend on your performance, only on your existence. Chapter 81. As the long arc of his story nears its quiet end in our minds, we begin to see more clearly that what moved us was never just the drama of altitude, but the familiar shape of longing and frailty we recognize in ourselves. He wanted to be true to his gift, to honor the mountains, to be seen, and yet to remain small before something greater. You too have wanted such things in your own way. You have tried to be faithful, even when misunderstood. As you breathe in, let the kinship between your heart and his soften any harshness you still carry toward your own unfinished attempts. Chapter 82. Imagine for a moment that you are sitting beside a low window in a mountain hut, looking out at the last light sliding off distant peaks. In front of you is a simple table, a cup of something warm, a worn notebook. If you could write one honest sentence about your life, what would it be? It might not mention achievements at all. It might say something like, "I tried to love," or "I kept going, even when I was afraid," or simply, "I'm still here." His life, stripped of speed records and headlines, could be summarized the same way. As you exhale, let that shared simplicity feel enough. Chapter 83. There were moments, high on walls of ice, when he must have felt very small, just a dark speck on a vast shining face. Yet in that smallness there was a strange safety. The mountain did not demand that he be more than human. It only demanded that he be fully present. Your own days, though less dramatic, ask the same of you. You're not required to be spectacular. You're invited to be awake to the people around you, to your own needs, to the subtle movements of grace in ordinary hours. As you breathe in, let presence, not perfection, be your quiet goal. Chapter 84. Think of the many nights he spent in tiny tents or simple huts, storms shaking the fabric, snow hissing against the walls. Outside, conditions changed wildly. Inside, he did what you're doing now, lying still, listening, waiting for morning. Those nights did not appear in news reports, yet they were essential. In them, his body recovered, his mind settled, his spirit slowly refocused. This night is one of those for you. It does not need to be productive or impressive. It needs only to be restful. As you exhale, imagine the storm of your day circling harmlessly outside while you remain warm at the quiet center. Chapter 85. One day, your own story will also be told in past tense. People will remember flashes, a kindness you offered, a burden you carried, a laugh that sounded like home. Few will know the exact numbers or timelines. What will remain is the feeling of you, the way standing near you changed the weather of a room, even a little. His story, with all its height and controversy, comes down finally to this same tenderness, that he was here, that he mattered, that he loved something fiercely. As you breathe in and out, rest in the gentle truth that the same is already, quietly, true of you. Chapter 86. In the quiet years after his death, forgiveness continued to move slowly through the story, like snow melting in hidden gullies long after winter has passed. Some who had been harsh in their judgments felt a softening and wondered if they had expected too much from one man. Others who had defended him at every turn began to see with gentleness that even their hero had blind spots and limits. In this way, truth and mercy met in the middle, like two climbers reaching the same ridge from opposite sides. As you breathe in, imagine that same grace flowing into your own memories, touching the places where you've been too hard on yourself or others. Chapter 87. His life became a kind of parable about risk and rest. People saw how far devotion can carry a person, up frozen walls, across knife-edge ridges, through storms of criticism, and also how necessary it is at times to step back, to say, "This is enough." For all his strength, he didn't always step back in time. You, listening now, are given the chance to learn in gentler terrain. The risks you take may be emotional, not physical. Opening your heart, starting again, speaking truth kindly. As you exhale, let the lesson settle softly, that bravery is not only found in pushing on, but often in knowing when to pause and breathe. Chapter 88. New climbers have grown up hearing his name woven into the history of the high peaks. Some watch his old ascents and feel the spark to move fast and light. Others feel called to climb with more rope and redundancy. Yet in both approaches, something of his intensity remains, a desire to meet the mountain honestly, to move with respect. In this way, he passed on a torch. That will be carried in many different ways. You too are passing quiet torches, to children, to friends, to strangers who notice your patience or your courage. As you breathe in, let yourself feel the gentle dignity of the example you're already giving. Chapter 89. If we could lay his entire life like a map beside yours, the lines would look different, but the underlying terrain would be similar. Valleys of doubt, ridges of effort, plateaus of waiting, small hidden springs of joy. His mountains were made of rock and ice. Yours are made of responsibilities, relationships, and the secret work of becoming yourself. Both kinds of climbing require perseverance, humility, and the willingness to continue even when the summit is hidden in cloud. As you exhale, imagine looking back over your own path with kinder eyes, seeing not just missteps, but the many steep sections you have already bravely walked. Chapter 90. By now, his story in your mind has become less a sequence of events and more a quiet presence, like a distant peak you can just make out in the dusk. You remember a boy looking up at Swiss mountains, a young man running in the dark, a climber standing alone on icy faces, a human being caught in misunderstandings, and finally a body resting on cold Himalayan ice. Yet beyond all of that, you sense something larger holding it together, the mystery that receives every life, with all its beauty and fracture, and does not let it slip away. As you breathe in, feel that same mystery holding you, very gently, in this moment. You have walked a long way through this mountain of memory, and your mind may be growing soft and hazy, like distant ridges fading into night. Let that haziness come. You no longer need to follow every detail of his path. Instead, turn your attention to the simple rise and fall of your own breath. Inhale slowly, as if drawing in cool air from a snowlit valley. Exhale even more slowly, as though releasing a long, silent sigh you've been holding for years. Feel your body resting, fully supported, as if you have reached a broad, safe ledge after a long climb. The past cannot tug at your ankles here. The future does not call from above. There is only this quiet camp of the present, this small, warm circle of darkness and comfort. Outside, the winds of opinion, of memory, of expectation may continue to blow, but they are far away now, muffled like storms beyond the walls of a sturdy tent. Here, you're not asked to be a legend or a lesson. You're simply invited to be at peace. If sleep comes, let it wrap around you like a down quilt, light and soft yet deeply warming. Your heart has listened to a long story. Now it is allowed to rest in one simple truth. You have come far enough for tonight. Breathe gently and let yourself drift. Chapter 91. As we move beyond the sharpest points of his tale, the story becomes less about one man and more about the quiet law that governs every life. That we rise for a while, we strive, we falter, and then we are gathered back into something greater. His rope is coiled now, his boots unworn, but the devotion he carried up those slopes has dissolved into a wider sky. You, lying here in the stillness, are held by that same sky, though it arches above streets and rooftops instead of ridges. As you breathe in, imagine that vast, sheltering dome stretching gently over you, steady and clear. Chapter 92. Think of the many unseen companions who walk with you through your days, the ones who taught you, the ones who challenged you, the ones whose brief presence changed your direction forever. He had such companions too, mentors, partners, Sherpas, loved ones, each tying a knot in the rope of his life. Some knots held firm, some frayed, some snapped under strain, but each mattered. Your own web of connection is just as intricate. As you exhale, you might silently thank someone whose influence still steadies you, even if they are far away now, or no longer on this earth. Chapter 93. Over time, the questions people ask about him grow softer. Instead of, was he right, or was he wrong, they wonder, what can I learn from the way he lived? His fierce discipline inspires some to treat their own gifts with more care. His missteps remind others to listen more deeply, to honour every person who shares their path. His sudden ending gently insists that no day should be wasted in bitterness if it can be spent in love. As you breathe in, let his story nudge you not toward judgment, but toward a quiet, compassionate wisdom about your own limited, luminous time. Chapter 94. If you close your eyes, you might imagine standing at the base of a great white mountain, not to climb it, but simply to look. Its ridges catch first light, its shadow stretches long behind you. Somewhere on its flanks are the faint traces of those who came before, including him. But the mountain does not demand that you follow their exact line. It simply stands, immense and calm, inviting you to feel your own smallness as something peaceful rather than frightening. As you exhale, let yourself rest in that feeling. Tiny, yes, but lovingly held within a world that is vast and strangely kind. Chapter 95. In the end, his life does not resolve into a neat lesson. It remains a mixture, courage and error, brilliance and blindness, beauty and cost. And that perhaps is why it speaks so deeply to the quiet places in you. Because your life too is a mixture, no single decision, no single season defining all the others. Tonight, you're allowed to lay the whole bundle down, the parts you're proud of, the parts you regret, the parts you still don't understand. As you breathe in and out, imagine placing all of it gently at the foot of that great mountain, trusting that it is seen, known, and tenderly received just as you are. Chapter 96. Somewhere inside you, there is a small, quiet climber who has never touched snow, never held an ice axe, yet knows exactly what it feels like to stand at the edge of something unknown. This inner climber has been with you in hospital rooms, in difficult conversations, in lonely nights when you were not sure how to go on. His story becomes a gentle companion to that part of you, whispering, "I was afraid too, and I kept moving." You do not need his speed or his altitude to share that courage. As you breathe in, let your inner climber stand a little taller, wrapped not in bravado, but in calm. Chapter 97. When we think of him now, we might picture not the instant of his fall, but a quieter moment, him tying his laces before dawn, pausing for a heartbeat, feeling the weight of the day ahead. In that pause, he was just like you, standing between what has been and what will be, not knowing how the hours would unfold. Every morning holds that same mystery, whether you're heading to a summit or to a simple day of tasks. As you exhale, imagine offering your tomorrows into gentle hands, trusting that you do not walk into them alone. Chapter 98. The mountains he loved were harsh and beautiful, capable of both revelation and ruin, yet he kept returning, not because he ignored the danger, but because he had seen something there that made the risk to him worthwhile, a purity of air, of effort, of silence. You too have places or practices that call you back, a craft, a friendship, a path in a nearby park, a quiet prayer in the dark. They may not be dramatic, but they are your high places. As you breathe in, honour those steady loves that have shaped you over time, as surely as any peak shaped him. Chapter 99. If you listen closely, his story does not say, "Become like me." It says something softer. Be true to what has been entrusted to you. For him, that trust was speed on ice, courage on rock, devotion to thin, glittering lines on cold faces. For you, it may be a talent for listening, a patient kindness, a mind that sees hidden connections, hands that comfort. None of these are small. Each is a rope someone else may need. As you exhale, imagine placing your own gifts gently before you, not as burdens, but as quiet offerings to a world that is colder without them. Chapter 100. So we stand, in our imagination, on a final ridge of his tale. Behind us lie valleys of childhood and training, faces of glory and doubt, storms of conflict, avalanches of opinion, and the sudden, shocking drop that ended his earthly climb. Before us stretches a calm, starry sky. We cannot follow him further. His path has vanished into a light we cannot yet see. But we can turn, here on this ridge, and face our own lives with a little more humility, a little more tenderness, a little more awe. As you breathe in and out, feel that you have walked far enough with him for tonight. Maybe now, as the story loosens its hold and drifts towards silence, you can feel how far you've travelled tonight, without moving at all. From a small Swiss valley to the cold faces of the Eiger and Annapurna, from the crowded slopes of Everest to the quiet, starry vastness above Nuptse, your heart has walked alongside a soul who loved the heights with fierce devotion. You have felt his courage and his confusion, his bright summits and his sudden fall, and you have looked gently at your own life through the reflection of his. You've walked far above with the Himalayas' great mountain spirit, even while your body has rested here in the soft dark. As you lie there now, feel the way the bed holds you, steady and sure, like a wide snow ledge carved into the side of a great peak. Your blankets are your warm sleeping bag. Your room is a safe high camp. Outside, the winds of the day have finally quieted. Inside, the lamps are low, and your breath moves slowly in and out, a small, faithful flame in the temple of your chest. Even in your rest, you have already conquered great peaks in the journey of life, not the peaks of fame or perfection, but the quieter summits of endurance, kindness, and simple, honest effort. Let your mind look back for just a moment over the ridges you've crossed today. The tasks finished, the worries carried, the feelings weathered. Some parts of the path were gentle, others were steep and cold, and yet, here you are. You made it to this camp, to this breath, to this night. You do not need to climb anymore right now. You're allowed to unrope from the expectations of others, to take off the crampons of constant effort, to set down the heavy pack of should and must beside your bed. This is your place of rest, a quiet tent of mercy pitched in the middle of your week. If tonight's journey brought any peace to your spirit, if walking softly through this story helped you breathe a little deeper, helped you feel less alone on your own steep slopes, know that you are always welcome to return. When your heart is ready, you can like this video, subscribe, and share what great survival story you would love to dream through next, so together we can keep weaving these gentle pilgrimages through snow and memory. And when you feel strong enough to keep exploring, you can click the next story waiting on your screen and continue your endurance path toward the summits that call you. For now, though, there's nothing more you need to do. Let the mountains fade into a soft, blue distance in your mind. Let the names and dates and faces dissolve into a quiet glow of gratitude that he lived, that you live, that love and courage keep rising in human hearts like dawn over a white horizon. May peace guard your dreams until morning, and may grace be the first light to greet you when you wake. Good night,